is the Coruscant Guard being the police really a bad thing? So, hi! This is our new El Cheapo sound booth. What do you think?
Is that working?
Does it work? In one of Geetsley's Coruscant Guard videos, he brings up the point that it's bad to turn the military to the police. The thing is, why is it dangerous for the military to become the police, and how does this statement apply to the Coruscant Guard? First, why is it bad when the military becomes police? Well, for starters, soldiers... Okay, I'm already hearing a difference. First, why is it bad when the military become the police? Well, for starters, soldiers who are thrust directly into the role of cop can and has led to a lot of innocent people getting shot to death on suspicion alone. But that's more likely to happen after a war under a new dictator, not before or during. When they do this, they deliberately remove all civilian cops and put experienced soldiers in their place to make sure they enforce their laws with force. Permanently. Now, how does this apply to the Coruscant Guard? Most of them were brought in after the Battle of Coruscant and are removed at the end of the war. Most are placed into cop roles without seeing any combat beforehand, so why would this apply to them? They are there because martial law has been enacted. It's a law that requires the temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule that is usually invoked in times of war, rebellion, or natural disaster. In this case, it's war. When enacted, the military commander of an area or country has unlimited authority to make and enforce laws. Fox was chosen for that position. What's noticeable is that they only replace some of the top layer cops, but not the lower level police. As any attacking ships will attack the top layer first, that's where the main defense has to be. They're also easier to control than regular cops as they answer to the Jedi and Palpatine directly. But there is something that clones don't have that is important to martial law. They don't have autonomy to make new rules. They can enforce already existing ones or new ones the Senate agrees on, which can become dangerous as the clones won't have the choice but to obey whatever it is, even if they know the people better. The power Palpatine holds over the Coruscant Guard only goes so far, but he doesn't need complete control. He just needs enough to get whatever he wants done. The Jedi's control of the Coruscant Guard only extends to escape prisoners and prisoner exchanges. Between him and the Jedi, the Coruscant Guard are heavily scrutinized and are forced to obey them, even when it's detrimental. This gets in the way of their main duties of protecting the populace, something Kamino, the Jedi, and Palpatine did not train them for. So this brings up the question, who taught them to be cops? Because none of the Kaminoans were told that they needed to train cops, they didn't bother. They were perfectly content making soldiers. When you look at their training, they were taught by bounty hunters to shoot droids, not people. They were also taught not to interact with non-military personnel unless their Jedi allowed it. The Coruscant Guard don't have a Jedi. So when the Coruscant Guard become the Coruscant Guard, they have no idea how to do this new job. So someone had to come in and show them how to become cops. Most of their training would have likely come from retired cops and maybe Devo.
Senator Amidala, is it possible you might be going deaf?
Lieutenant?
Because when I said I didn't want you to interfere with my investigation, I can only assume that you didn't hear me.
Generator maintenance, eh? Yeah, well, everything checks out. Whoa, wait a minute. Power generators are that way.
Oh, that's preposterous. Even if the killer did get through my security, it's very unlikely that all of you would end up dead.
Stupid droids.
Meaning they're being trained like civilians, but with one minor difference. They need to be detrained of their highly aggressive, trigger-happy military training. If they didn't, the clones would end up killing innocent people like battle droids. Just trying to get to one specific criminal. The first thing they need to learn is gentleness and restraint if they are to interact with people and gain their trust. Plus, cops have to be as accurate as possible when shooting as to not hit a crowd of innocent people or a hostage. Field troops can afford to shoot like maniacs. As they're only clones, as they're the only clones that can't go back to Kamino till the war is over, military retraining is almost non-existent. They may continue their fight training and get new rig manuals, but that's it. Because of this, it forces them out of a military mindset they started with, and the longer they stay on Coruscant learning to be cops, the less they'll think like soldiers.
In my book, experience outranks everything.
The front lines for a cop versus a military officer are completely different. Okay, if you literally just got shot during battle versus during... Because, like, in war, you do not want to be seen. You do not want the enemy to pinpoint your location. So it has been known, especially during, like, I'm familiar with this one story from World War II where these soldiers, they were trying desperately not to be found by the enemy, and one of them had been hit, and the medic wasn't going to get there in time to do anything about it, but in an attempt to shut him up so that they're not spotted, so they as a group don't get killed. One hit him over the head with a shovel. Because of the angle that the shovel was at, it killed him. It's that after they hit him over the head, they brushed it off, going, it was either him or us. Well, it was either he died or we all did. Friendly fire was something that is very, very common among soldiers. Sometimes it was accidental, and sometimes it was most definitely on purpose. But I think, like, in the Clone Wars, that would be much less of an issue, because, well, it usually happened to their commanding officer, incompetent commanding officers during like real world wars. But when you're a cop, if one of your buddies is down, you get him out of that scene. You get him off the scene. You get him as far away from the fight as possible, as quickly as possible. You call in backup. And when you're on the battlefield, that is not something that happens. Friendly fire is very rare among cops because of the difference in situations.
When you're a cop, when you get shot, your position is already compromised. So keeping them quiet means nothing.
Cops do not have that same mentality. The battlefields are different. You use different methods for different battlefields, and that is the one thing that people have problems with when it comes to the military. People in the military, they move in, like 25% of police officers tend to be ex-military. Why? Well, and they found that they actually see military service. They actually see being a cop as being calmer, on average, than more relaxing than being in the military.
So that's why the Coruscant Guard is always bored.
That's why the Coruscant Guard seems bored half the time, because they're not blasting things left and right like they were trained to their entire lives. They are forced to stop and do various other mostly just guard duty, but like they do get bored, but they don't take it out on the people. The ones who do are the very violent one. Like a soldier comes home, and all of that PTSD and the fact that like with the clones, they don't know what the Republic is. They think it's an ideal, or they think it's the Senate. They don't think it's the people around them, the civilians. The Coruscant Guard is the most likely to recognize that the civilians are the Republic. So the Corey Guard are not going to take it out on the people. The very drunk, very angry, very aggressive, very PTSD-driven clones are more from off the battlefield, who are still high on that explosive tendencies, are the ones who's going to be the most violent against the civilians. And that's where And that's where part of the difference lies. That's the majority of the difference. I spent way too much time thinking about this.
This is fairly common on Earth too. Gibbs from NCIS was a sniper before he was retrained into a cop, and he was a sniper for years. They make whole shows about this. Due to minimal combat experience, they never cement the battlefield mindset that would make them a threat to the people. The Battle of Geonosis took an hour, and the Battle of Coruscant only lasted a week. I looked it up. Their cop training took months. It takes 18 to 254 days to rewire the brain. By the time of the Clone Wars movie, about 6 months into the war, Fox and his men already have the cop mentality when they go into Capture Zero. Fox straight up acts like a rookie cop alongside his men. But as you can see, they are still a little trigger happy and reckless. This switch from soldier to cop is a slow process and doesn't take full hold till a month later. This becomes important even before Order 66 rolls around, as this change in thought process allows them to question orders in ways other clones can't. Field troops don't have to answer moral questions. For Coruscant Guards, it's necessity.
So, what exactly does their job entail when trained this way? Well, as semi-civilian cops, they would be reacting to a lot more calls, meaning they would be handling DUIs, domestic abuse, trespassing, murder, attempted suicide, brawls, riots, robbery, and mental cases. Everything a regular cop would answer to. So when they chase the team, they're running after a suspect in a murder case. That's it.
Subject identified as Duchess Satine Crees.
But as part of the military, they also have to obey military rules, as they're being seen abusing. If they're seen abusing the little power they have, they would get harshly reprimanded, even more so than a normal cop. Due to this position, they end up doing civil work with all military restrictions. They work late into the night, wake up early, train hard, and work hard. So do regular cops, but that's beside the point. This leaves them extremely overworked to the point that they can't overpower anyone when a fight breaks out at night.
We need reinforcements in here, now! Look out! Watch it! Take a shot! This fast!
The Senate also votes for more troops to be sent to the battlefield.
This is a matter not of philosophy. More troops are needed. The Republic cannot afford to let the Separatists gain any more ground.
This makes it harder for the Coruscant Guard to get more men, leaving them understaffed. They're also bullied regularly, so they have to pretend nothing is wrong, leading to more exhaustion. Fox had to work ways around this for all of his men's survival.
So does Fox have any power at all? Yes, after he was ready. If he wasn't, none of his men would survive long enough to reach Order 66. Fox has control of the prison budget, his men, prisoners, and has minor authority over senators and the Jedi. First, the Jedi. His power only extends to when they're on Coruscant, and this does cause some headbutting in certain situations, like an escape, arrest, or no-win situation. The high and mighty Jedi, I think they could have won. If they cross the line, he can arrest them. If he needs help, he can steal one to track somebody off-world where he can't go. Because of this, the Coruscant Guard get a bad rap among the Jedi, especially the main council. He can also arrest senators if they cross the line. If one tries to punish his men for refusing to do something that isn't their job, he has the right to tell them off. Senators actually have very little power over the Guard, as they don't have military authority. When it comes to his men, he can control how many leave the planet, how many go on patrol, what missions, and who leads. Only a few branches of the Guard can go off-world, but only for prisoner exchanges, prisoner retrieval, or protection detail. Because he can only spare so many men, he doesn't send more than what's needed. He makes sure they all know how to do each other's jobs, including himself. The only exceptions are medical and ARF troopers. This guarantees that the troops who don't need to worry about their stations if they get called or killed. This also makes sure troops don't get bored enough to slack off or fall asleep on duty. As all of them are overworked, this is highly important. He controls what kind of fight training they do. If it's exactly like those on the field, they could end up killing innocent people. How much of an education his men get? Like giving them access to information and help them do their jobs or specialize. He does this by slipping clones into the gallery during trials, listening in on senatorial debates, have them watch interrogations, talk to people, you name it. And lastly, what orders to obey. This will be explained later. Fox has control of the prison budget, but it's limited to prison necessities like toilet paper, clothes, energy bills, food, etc. Because of this, Fox has to cut corners in order to stop later escapes or murder attempts. You can see that he did that multiple times before Obi-Wan arrived disguised as Rick or Hardeen. The food is nasty and comes in really small portions. The clothes are heavily stained and unwashed, and all 10 exercise devices are bolted to the floor with minor padding. But there are multiple new security devices in place to keep crooks from escaping the same way twice. All very expensive equipment. Crooks don't want to bribe Fox because he'll go straight to upgrading to prison security and not their comfort. Zero's cell is a good example.
Do you see the conditions I'm living in? That insipid senator put me in here. She deserves to die for leaving me to rot in this squalor. Oh, it's so bright out here.
Oh my God.
Why couldn't we do this at night when it's cooler?
It doesn't look like prison had too adverse an effect on you.
Oh, you can't imagine the unspeakable things I've suffered. The horror. I doubt I'll ever really recover.
The only time he doesn't need to cut corners is when a rich prisoner with no will or family dies from natural causes, a rare occurrence. As he wants his men functional and healthy, he tries his best not to cut that half of the budget. He can easily train his men to shower in 2 minutes or less once a week, so that saves on the water bill. Plus, as they don't see much combat, they don't need to repaint their armor as often, saving on paint. He also has full control of who visits prisoners. Not just anyone can walk in. He has to test the visitors for intentions before sending them in, as they could be there to either murder someone or help them escape. As the detention center is the main place criminal investigations start and where trials are held, Fox has control of the cases, meaning he decides how high a priority the case is and if he should pass it on to someone else.
As the Coruscant Guard are still soldiers, don't they have to obey every order? Depends. If the order is unethical, immoral, or illegal, a soldier can disobey it, but who they work under can make the difference. Can they disobey General Skywalker? Yes, because he's a general and is therefore under the same scrutiny. Chancellor Palpatine? No. As the highest ranking person in the government, any order that is disobeyed can be claimed as treason, but unlike the US military, clones cannot disobey a direct order on ethical grounds alone. They have to have proof.
This is about more than just following orders. It is. It is about honor. Where is the honor in marching blindly to our deaths? It is not our call. We are part of something larger. We are not independent of one another. I'm sorry. I cannot just follow orders when I know they're wrong. Especially when lives are at stake. You will if you support the system we fight for. I do support it. I do. But I am not just another number. None of us are.
Fox has an issue shooting Fives, not just because he's a brother, but also because he has no idea why Fives attacked, or why he was in the Chancellor's personal medical wing in the first place. Clones don't attack people without being told to, being drunk, sick, or having evidence of something. As Palpatine is the highest ruling power on Coruscant, Fives trying to kill him at all was a traitor's act. So when Palpatine gives Fox the kill order, Fox falls into his cop training and goes in for a capture and contain. In that moment, Fox has no evidence, just an order, so he decided to try and bring him in to find out why he did what he did. Fox knew there was a chance he would get executed as an accomplice or sympathizer, i.e. a traitor, if he disobeyed. As slaves, no clone gets away with disobeying the Chancellor without absolute proof. Fox works directly under the Chancellor. If he found that Fives wasn't the traitor, he would take it to the Jedi, but as Fox is on bad terms with them, the chances of them listening to him are very, very, very slim.
All security and clone forces on Coruscant have been ordered to join the manhunt. The Chancellor has been moved to his Senate quarters, and the perimeter has been secured. However, Jedi involvement has not been requested. We will investigate quietly undercover. We must make sure this clone is not killed.
If Fives was a traitor, he would be required to kill him anyway. He has a lot to lose either way.
So to sum it up, the whole reason why it's bad that they're there isn't because the Corys run around abusing their power, as the comics would make you believe. It's because Palpatine abuses his power over them. He uses them to get the people on his side before Order 66. If the people don't accept them, then switching them out for TK troopers will be more difficult once the Empire rises.
I heard the defense recruitment bill is up for a vote again. Well, let's hope it doesn't pass, for our sake.
As the people have respect for the Coruscant Guard, this makes everything slide into place. Most view them in the same way as they say the regular cops. The only people who hate them are criminals, people who view them as reminders of the war, and Jedi who don't understand what their job is.
I know Commander Tano. She would never do something like this. Then who did?
Quiet.
Most field troopers only see them wandering the streets, stopping clone bar fights, or looking for someone, so them believing that they're glorified guards makes sense. It would just be misplaced jealousy or feelings of superiority that make them hate their brethren red, but for the most part, they are respected.
Honestly, it makes sense that Dave Filoni didn't give them their own episode outside of the first season. Why would he focus on child cops when this role is about child soldiers? By the time of Order 66, they are no longer soldiers. This is evidence in their behavior while under the chip's influence.
Sir, are you alright? Fine. Just tired is all. I want you to go to the detention level. Execute Mole. Yes, sir.
Not counting the ones that replaced the 86th Thorn got killed, as they didn't complete their new training before the order went out. This makes sense since their job since they only had the job for 4 months at most. This wasn't enough time to undo most of their more stubborn and aggressive programming, especially since Fox was either gone or not in his right mind for most of it. In The Mandalorian, some didn't even have their colors yet, and the pilot who crashed into the train wasn't even a pilot. If he was, he would have known not to go into that train tunnel. It's possible that because they focus more on Grogu, they didn't double-check. If they did it on purpose, narratively speaking, then it's just saying how inexperienced these guards were in particular. And it would lead more credibility to what we're saying. If it was done in 8 clones during Order 6 are no better than Stormtroopers mentality, could explain it, but it'd be more annoying. It removes narrative weight by making the clones weaker, and by extension, the Jedi. As it is martial law, they are temporary. At the end of the war, Palpatine forces these armored cops to retire, and as the recruitment bill is passed, they get replaced by soldiers trained by field clones. Field clones who executed their Jedi without a second thought.
What was your assignment? I was an instructor. I thought you said you trained these guys. I didn't teach them everything. That wouldn't be very smart, would it?
You can see TK troopers wandering around before the bill's even passed. All of them are soldiers coming to replace cops. They are the military becoming the police. Permanently. That's what we have.
Hey!
Dave, hear me out. You have a writer who used to work on NCIS. Please make a Coruscant Guard series about what they were doing during the war. It could be 10 episodes. You could have an episode where they stop a serial killer, one where they get training, one about why Fox was checking ID before the IDs before the generator bombing, and an episode that shows the Ahsoka's framing episodes from Fox's point of views. Fox can be the new Gibbs. You can even have like Voss be like that annoying friend who just happens to be useful. Please! The fandom would love you. More so than they already do. Bye! You're like, oh, that's a dome.
Just hold the pillow.
Please!
Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Hi. Hi.